My name's Beth. I'm an addict. Well, I'm super excited and flattered to be able to introduce the speaker tonight. I love her a lot to do this because it's terrifying up here. I was reminded that this is my family and that I shouldn't be nervous, but I still am. But I would do just about anything for her. I would even stand in high heel silver sandals for hours so for her wedding, so this is nothing. I met Erica when she came to our area in Huntington, our GTO area, about 5 years ago. And when she came, it was a low point in my recovery, I'll say. I had about a year clean, and I was really struggling on whether I was going to stay or go. I felt like I was definitely at a crossroads. I felt like I was really at a crossroads. I don't like to talk into a microphone either. That's my other thing that I'm terrified of. But whenever she came, it was at the right time. I feel like the universe brought us together, maybe. I don't know. I know that her influence on me and my recovery is a big part of why I'm still here. She's been such a positive role model and, like I said, influence for not only me, but I know for countless women in this fellowship. Her passion for Narcotics Anonymous is undeniable, and it's something, that I can aspire to. Any of you that have met her knows that she's amazing. She has a way, for me, of being able to take, like, the literature, for instance, and help me apply it to situations, all different kind of situations. And that's been really valuable because, in my experience, I try to make that stuff not apply, and she makes me be able to see it. Somebody told me once that you shouldn't make your friend your sponsor, but I learned that if you get an amazing sponsor and you work with them and you trust them, you will end up with a best friend out of the situation. So I'm not going to tie up any more of your time. I'm anxious to hear Erica's story. I'm sure it will be amazing. I'll give you Erica P.
I'm an addict. I can't believe I'm doing this. Gosh, I don't even know where to start. Am I nervous? Yes. I've asked that all day long. I kept asking people and talking to people, and they'd say, "Are you nervous?" Or they would say, "Good luck," And then there's some people that would say, "Just tell the truth." And I was like, "Ooh, tell the truth?" That one sounds sort of scary, but have fun, have fun. Like, who knew? I don't know. I don't know where to start. Wow. I'm not going to start. Where's my sponsor? Is he in here? There he is. Okay. Just checking. No, I forget what I was going to say. I'm not going to start from the very beginning of my story. I'm not going to start with I was born when. I'm not going to tell you about third grade. You know, I stole Polly Pockets from Kmart obsessively, and I had a dog named Mike, and that's about all you need to know, I guess, really. I mean, I don't know. But I'm not going to, I don't think I should brush over what brought me to Narcotics Anonymous. I think that that's really important, and I don't feel like that I need to qualify. I don't feel like that I need to prove to you that I'm an addict. What I do want to do is have that little level of identification. I think that it's important. Now, as far as where to start in that. I don't know. But, you know, let's start with my first Narcotics Anonymous meeting. I swore I wasn't going to tell this story. So I had a friend, and I called him one night, and I was wanting to go out, and I was wanting to go drink. And I was wanting him to go with me, and he was like, well, I can't go with you. I have to go to a meeting. And I'm like, we don't have a fucking job. What do you mean you want me to go to a meeting? He's like, well, my PO is making me go to this meeting. It's in Cross Lanes. It'll only take us an hour. It'll be on the way to Charleston. And I'm like, okay, fine. So obviously I end up at Cross Lanes and at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. And I sat down, and there's a reading underneath my seat. And I obviously didn't know anything about it. So I pick it up and I start reading it, and it's, what is it? Is it Why Are We Here? That talks about that we are under no surveillance at any time. That's all I remember about that, because I was very happy about that. And I didn't know I was supposed to read it. I thought it was or maybe it's What Is Narcotics Anonymous? I don't remember which one. It is What Is, isn't it? Okay, so what is Narcotics Anonymous? And, but I remember reading it and thinking, okay, cool, they're telling me why I'm here, you know? And with what's going on, and I just put it down, and then obviously I realized I needed to read it. But and I do remember that the meeting was about obsession and compulsion, and I remember that there was people sharing about going to Walmart. Oh gosh, I hope this person is not in this room. And I don't even know who it was, but I remember that they were sharing about going to Walmart and buying all this stuff obsessively and going to the parking lot and going through the door to the other side to return everything. And I thought, man, these people have problems, real problems. But and then they're the only other thing I really remember. This is the Nana area. So at this meeting was a couple that's still clean today. Dave and Kathy, I'm sure they're in here somewhere probably, and they kept trying to talk me into going to a picnic. And I'm like, look, I am not going to a picnic at the wave pool. Well, this is what I'm thinking, you know, I mean, I don't know. They were just talking to me about it. And I just remember in my head thinking that there's not going to be kegs there. There's not going to be drugs there. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to a picnic. And I remember that, but so this is my first experience, and that's really all I remember. And so, you know, it was a regular evening out, drinking and using, and, you know, I was drunk as fuck, and I was out in Canal State Forest somewhere. And I can't believe I'm telling this. And we were at some abandoned house. I don't even know what we were doing, and the only other thing I remember from this night is that I had to take a shit really bad. And I promise there's more. And so I'm in Canal State Forest, and I obviously was really drunk, and I shit all over my pants while I was trying to shit, and I had diarrhea. So for the rest of the evening, I mean, it was never talked about, but I could smell it, you know what I mean? And I knew it was all over me. So that's my first experience with the Narcotics Anonymous meeting. Obviously, I was in the right place. I can't believe I said that. But anyway, you know, and as far as some other things, I ended up at, you know, random outpatient, and I had, you know, different charges and whatnot. Sorry, I just realized there was a phone sitting there. And I went to a couple other meetings, and, you know, I was still using, and really didn't even have any desire to stay clean. I just needed to stay out of jail and do whatever they were telling me to do. And the only other stuff really that comes to mind is I remember how, like, I tell this story a lot, but I remember they kept talking about sponsorship, and I was thinking to myself, okay, sponsorship. And I don't know if you guys remember, like, that Jump Rope for Heart where they, like, pay you so much to, like, jump rope or whatever. So in my head, I'm thinking, oh yeah, these people are going to pay me to stay clean. I'm like, I need a sponsor. I need a sponsor quick. But so, and I went up to a guy, a lot of you know, Rick B., that's no longer with us, of course, a guy, and asked him what I needed to do to find somebody for sponsorship. And he told me that I needed to talk to one of the women, and that was the end of that. So, and, you know, that was just my first experiences. That was when using for me was, I just talked about shitting on myself, but it was still fun. You know what I mean? At least in my head it was. But, like, it hadn't got to the desperation. It hadn't got to what it would become. And when I think back to that, and I think about, you know, my last day using, and which was, no, it wasn't my last day using, I'm lying. See, I told you it's hard to tell the truth. It was the end of my bottom, I guess you would call it. I would get high 2 more times before my clean date, but this was like April 27th of 2005. And I was, I guess just to give you an idea without going all through like that life or that time period, you know, I had a bunch of warrants out for my arrest. I had 2 felony charges of distribution of controlled substance, and I had misdemeanors, and I had U.S. Marshals coming to my mother's house all the time, and I had a bounty hunter looking for me because obviously I was on the run. I didn't live anywhere. I had already been I was at the point where my mother would not let me anywhere near my home. My father didn't want me anywhere near his home. I had a 2-year-old little boy that I had just handed over to my mom. Luckily, I was able to stay clean for 9 months. Power greater than myself, I don't have any idea. And I had no car, I had no home, I had a backpack that was full of really weird random things like flashlights and who knows, there wasn't anything like clothes or soap or anything. Like, I had a toothbrush that everybody kept fucking stealing, and I didn't, like, I lived in this abandoned house out at Kanawha State Forest with, you know, the animals and all the crazy shit out there. And I remember that, like how this house was, how the roof was, when it would rain, there would, just how it was designed, there would be like a huge waterfall that would like come off the roof. And so I would always wait for it to rain so that I could shower. And then we also had this big, huge tub, and sometime I would get in that and shower. I remember using a knife to get into a can of hot dog chili one time because I was starving. You know, that's just sort of some of the external stuff as far as like where life got to. But internally was just complete delusion. I had no sense of reality. I was just completely desperate. I couldn't quit using. I was to the point where I had just sort of accepted that I was an addict and that I was going to be a needle junkie for the rest of my life. And I didn't want anybody to expect anything else out of me. I didn't want you to expect me to be there for Christmas. I didn't want you to expect me to get a job. Lord God, I couldn't get a job. I didn't want to be expected to take care of my son. I didn't want to be anything. I was just a drug addict, and that was just life. And it was like what the basic text talks about, that like animal level. That's where it was. And I completely just mentally lost touch with reality. And it was just pure desperation. But that night, in April, like, I just happened to, somebody asked me to drive. We were leaving somewhere, and so I was like, okay, well, and we got pulled over, and I went to jail again that night, and I went to jail, which they didn't even know I had warrants and all that stuff yet, but like, I had went to jail because I had been awake for, like, I don't know, probably between 4 and 7 days, and I couldn't pass any of the roadside tests. So I got a freaking DUI, and I hadn't even been drinking. But I don't know what it was, but when I went to jail, like, my life changed then. It was like, I don't know what clicked. I don't know what happened. I was just sick and tired. I was sick of the consequences. I was sick of living like that. And I didn't like jail. Like, I was sick of it. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't like it. I wanted to feel the grass. I wanted to eat something beside fucking ramen noodles. You know what I mean? Like, whew. And and that's just sort of, I guess, where it ended up, that identification. And I ended up going from there to a treatment facility in Beckley, West Virginia. And, it's all sort of blurry. I do remember I had a lot of trouble in the beginning with rules and things like that. And I got kicked out of the treatment facility that I was in twice. And I really didn't have a desire to stay clean. I just wanted the consequences to stop. I just really struggled through that time to want to stay clean. And, I got high one more time after that. And it was a weird night. My son had came up, and my mom brought him to visit, and I was just sad. Wasn't really taking recovery serious. I remember I joked a lot. I joked a whole lot about relapse. And we would always make these, like, stupid jokes, like, let go and let Budweiser. And, but, like, that's not funny. But, so, like, today, I'm really serious about not joking about relapse, because I didn't look at it as a life or death situation. I didn't look at it like, that my life is depending on Narcotics Anonymous, and my life is depending on me to let go and let God. But I feel like that I sort of joked myself right into a relapse. And I know it's weird, but, like, today I'm real serious about it. And I'm grateful that it didn't last very long. I'm grateful that I was introduced to Narcotics Anonymous while I was in a treatment facility. And I'm grateful that I was just, I guess, already introduced to the program. But like I said, I was around for a while before I was really serious. I stayed around for all the wrong reasons, and I'm one of those people that, like, I don't care why you're here, because I was here to stay out of jail, and I was also here because my boyfriend was. And so I don't care if you're on drug replacement. That's me. That's not Narcotics Anonymous. That's me. That's my personal opinion. I don't care if you are here because your boyfriend is. I don't care if you're here to get your kids back. I don't care if you're here to stay out of jail or to get over through your charges or whatever. I'm just glad you're here, because I didn't necessarily want to be here, but I stayed. And something clicked, and it got to the point where I didn't have to get a paper signed anymore, and it got to the point where the relationship I was in was over, and it got to the point where, like, I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision of whether or not I wanted to be a member of Narcotics Anonymous, or if I wanted to go back to the pain and the misery and the desperation that I came from. So I'm real grateful, and I remember that moment real clearly. I remember exactly where I was exactly where I was sitting, and the meeting that I was in, and I had about 9 months clean at the time. I hadn't worked any steps. I don't know if I had a sponsor, Probably, maybe, I don't know. I wasn't using them. And, and I remember that a lot of and the things that I was staying for were pretty much over. You know, the relationship was falling apart, and I remember that surrendering to this program, and I'm real grateful for that today. You know, and it's not. This road has not been easy. This path has not been easy for me. There's a JFT a couple days ago that I think it was Tuesday that talked about a continuous uphill journey, and that's what it's been for me. You know, it's a continuous uphill journey, and you know sometimes it's really beautiful and it's amazing and wonderful things are happening, and sometimes it's rough and it's hard, and my defects are just consuming me, and I'm full of fear, and I'm full of anger and resentment, and you know there's a lot of just ups and downs on this path, but I'm really grateful for it. In my early recovery, I think my first Ripley convention, I had about 6 months clean. My clean date is 11/5/05. Thank you. And I remember that all the people in the little recovery community that I was going to, or that I was living in, were all getting ready to go to the fall Ripley convention. And that last time I told you about getting high the last time, I decided to stay back, and I decided that the visit with my son was more important. And I truly believe in my heart that if I would have came to Ripley, like I only had 4 months clean, which is awesome, but I believe that like I wouldn't have got high that night. So like actually you guys were here on my clean date. And then I came in the spring, and that was my first convention. And, wow, I love Ripley. Here we are, we're here. But I you know, when I first came to my first convention here, I had got the news a week before the convention that my best friend had overdosed. And, he had been trying to get a hold of me, and he'd been trying to call me, and my parents didn't tell me because they were scared, because it was, you know, who I was using with before I went to treatment and stuff, and so I never got to talk to him. But and so when I came here, was 6 months clean, no clue how to deal with those feelings. I didn't know how to feel that pain. I didn't know or understand what the process of grief was. I didn't have any understanding of applying any kind of principles to my life whatsoever. And I remember coming here, and you know, this guy where we lived, we had like a big fire pit, and we would always have people over drinking and using and stuff. And so that was like our thing, you know what I mean? Like that's what we did all the time, because it's, you know, what was at the house. But and I remember the first night sitting down at the campfire, and I was just like, man. And it was hard, you know. I was sitting there by myself, and it hurt, you know. The smells, the thoughts, the memories. I'm not just this person that was gone because of this disease, but just even the memories of active addiction was hard. And I thought, you know, I got to get out of this thing. And so I decided to go to the marathon meeting, which was in the classroom. And for the first time, I opened my mouth and I shared, and I said I was hurting and I was in pain and I didn't want to get high. And I felt the love of this fellowship. And I felt what it meant to, like, for that pain shared as pain lessened. And that I wasn't alone. And, you know, those people in there, they hugged me, and they told me it was okay, and that I didn't have to get clean, and that I was in the right place. And that experience was just huge for me. in my soul. And, and then I guess Saturday night, which is just amazing. Just, it's like Ripley showed me that I could also have fun, clean. Because I was pretty young. How old was I when I came in? Like 22 or 23, I think. And like in my mind, to get clean was boring, and there wasn't anything to do, and it would suck, and I wouldn't have any friends, and it would just be monotonous Groundhog Day or something. But like when I came here and I saw people were having fun, and there was drum circles, and there was dances, and there was campfires, and there was clean time countdowns, and like it did something to me. It was like that I can have fun in recovery, and I can be part of, and which was totally awesome. And it ended up like, after that convention, in between spring and the next fall, I actually found myself in a situation where I was on my way to my house to meet some people that were coming over to get high. And I remember going back and forth in my head with, no, this probably isn't a good idea. Well, it's not going to hurt that much. I mean, And I remember thinking back to Ripley. And I remember thinking back to the Clean Time Countdown. And that kept me clean that night. And I don't even know how to explain it. But that power, that love, that celebration that we have here on Saturday night of what this program is doing, and that we do recover, that touched my spirit. And, this convention is a huge part of my life. We did the math earlier. I think it's my 17th consecutive convention, which is crazy to even think about. This is my passion. I am a true believer in that this event has saved my life on multiple occasions. Like we all hear other people say, and we talk about that it recharges our batteries, and that, I can't wait, I really need this, and I just need to feel that connection and feel that love and just get filled up with recovery. And I know that's me. I agree. That's my experience as well. And but it lasts. It's like every 6 months. It's like right when I need it. It's like right there. It's like, whew, here we go. And I love that. And because like it's so passionate to me, like I like really did a lot of service with the convention. And that's where I put a lot of my effort. I was on the convention committee for, 6 years maybe, I think. But I do it because, some people are passionate about PI or PR, whatever it is now, PI. Some people are passionate about H&I, and some people, different people have their niche, and mine's activities. I like to have fun. I like the fellowship. I like what we do. I like the unity. So that's just where mine is. And I also, I had a lot of things when I was struggling just in my recovery, and at the time, I spent a lot of time in the merchandise room, and I would help fold clothes, and I would help the other crazy guys in there do stuff with the merchandise, and that was like my safe place. Rocco and Shane and Alan were always in there, and I felt safe. I felt protected, which is another reason I think that this place is so important to me in my recovery. And Narcotics Anonymous is just, man, it's done so much for my life. Like I feel like I could go on so many different tracks and so many different avenues of what I could talk about up here. And what's coming to my mind is like an analogy that I think about a lot, that is sort of sums up my recovery. And I think about it a lot as like this big tree, and like a big, huge tree, and it's like huge at the top, and it's got these really big, strong, like roots that are just as big as like the branches, and the branches are the reaching out. It's the service. It's the carrying the message. It's what's external. It's being a productive member of society. It's reaching out to the newcomer. It's doing things like that. And then I look at the roots as me building the foundation that I need, that digging, that internal work, that step work, and like gaining a connection with a higher power and developing relationships and just all that different stuff that like I have to really dig deep, and it needs to be balanced for me. But I feel that like Narcotics Anonymous obviously is a 12-step program, and I believe that that's what's most important for me is working the 12 steps and really like digging in and getting to know who I am and figuring out what my patterns and behaviors and my assets and my defects and my values and my goals and what all those things are. And I think that's really where I grow the most is through step work. And I think for me it's been a lot of a journey to figure out who I am. When I came in the rooms, like I really didn't know who I was, really. I didn't really have any idea of what any of that stuff was. And, I believe that through writing and through learning how to apply that stuff to my life, like I figured out who I am, and I realized like what my goals are. And I never, like during my using, I never graduated from high school. I actually quit when I was a freshman, and this like crazy situation happened where I was just like, I don't know, I was out drunk and like all this crazy stuff happened and all these rumors started, and it wigged me out and it made me feel so less than, and I just quit going. So when I came to recovery, in my first 4-step, I learned and realized that like one of my goals is that I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to actually like complete something, because I remember the feelings of what it felt like when other people were graduating or going to prom, and I was just using, and I remember the guilt and the shame and the embarrassment, and actually I ended up with a diploma. I'm going to tell this story, it's sort of a weird story, but I ended up, like, I don't know if you guys remember 17 magazine, but I was a freshman in high school, and they had this ad in the back that was like, do you want a high school diploma? And I was like, yeah, I do. And like, I talked my mom into calling that 800 number, and I hope my job doesn't get a hold of the city, and paying for those classes. So that's how I actually got my high school diploma. Nobody ever questioned it. I like got into college with it and everything. But anyway, that's besides the point. But but through step work, that was one of the things that I was really passionate about, because it was one of those things that I had a hard time forgiving myself for, and that I'd carried a lot of pain over. And I think I was 3 years clean, and that's actually why I left the area that I was in Beckley, and I moved to Huntington because I had decided. Well, for one, I got fired from my job for acting crazy. And for two, I was going to use it as an opportunity to do something that I wanted to do in my life. And I moved to Huntington, and I enrolled at Marshall University and started in the environmental science program. And I actually completed that. I graduated in December of 2011. And that's awesome to me, you know what I mean? Like, that's just one of those things that Narcotics Anonymous, I feel, has done for me. And, like, I would have never guessed that, like, I would be doing the things today that I dreamed of doing before I started using. because I lost all those dreams. When I started using, I didn't have any dreams. I didn't have any hopes anymore. Like, I was just a drug addict, and to be able to go back to that stuff and to actually be able to put the commitment and, the perseverance and the principles that I learned through the steps into that, I'm real grateful for today. Like I was saying earlier, that I had a little boy, and I actually left him. I don't know how old he was. He wasn't a year old yet, but I stayed clean abstinent through my pregnancy, and then I left when he was little, and that was really hard for me as a mother. I remember going to my mom's house sometimes and just he would cry for me to stay, and he would get upset, and he would want his mom, and I couldn't. There was just something that had a hold of me. Like, I walked out that door anyway, like with him screaming at the door, like, "Mommy," And so when I was 6 months clean, my parents actually dropped him off to me, which I didn't know they were doing, but I wasn't sure if I wanted him back, really, because I didn't know. I wasn't sure, you know what I mean? Like, I only had 6 months clean. Like, I didn't know how to be a mother. I didn't know if I wanted to be a mother. I carried a lot of resentment, because I felt like that in a sense I was really young when I had him. Got pregnant at 19. I thought it was really young, but and like I felt this like resentment that the things that were going good in my life, that like somehow this pregnancy and this child had prevented me from being able to live the life that I wanted to live. That's hard to say, I considered not even having this child, and I decided to, which I'm really, really grateful that I did today. But and when I was 6 months clean, they brought him up to me, and I had no idea that they were dropping him off, and they just dropped him off, and I was terrified. And I remember them walking out the door, and I looked over at him, and he was looking at me, and I was like, "Oh." It's like, "Well, what do you like to eat?" And he was like, "Chicken nuggets." I was like, "Okay, I can do this." But it was hard, it was really hard, because I'm like an addict, and I'm self-centered, and motherhood didn't come easy. I wanted to go run around with my friends, and I wanted to go to the meetings, and I wanted to go out and eat afterwards, and I wanted to go to the conventions, and I wanted to stay out until midnight at IHOP or whatever, even though I wasn't using, like I was still living, not that I was living bad behaviors, but I was trying to learn how to live clean, basically. I don't necessarily think I was doing anything wrong. It was just difficult with a 3-year-old. I'm grateful that my parents helped me a lot. And today, like, through working through a lot of that stuff, through my step work and through my 4th step and through a 6th step and a lot of 9 and gosh, I guess all my steps, I finally realized, that I don't hold a resentment for this child. This child is a blessing. And I love him with all my heart. And I realized that really I was displacing a lot of resentment that I had towards his father, for leaving and for, not helping. And I had a lot of resentment towards myself and my guilt. And I think once I started to realize that, it helped me to open the door to loving my son. And that's hard to say, it's hard. But that's the truth. They told me to tell the truth. I'm telling the truth. But I'm proud to be a mom today. I am not Mom of the Year. I will never be Mom of the Year. I forget him at Vacation Bible School sometimes. Today, he called me. I was trying to take a nap at 4 o'clock. He's like, "Mom, I picked up the phone. I was like, I think I know this number. And I picked it up. He's 11. And he was like, Mom, am I supposed to go to after school? And I was like, I'm sorry. I forgot to put the note in your backpack. But, like, we have an awesome relationship today, you know. And I'm not perfect, and I'll never be perfect. But he loves me, and I love him. And I do the best that I can. And I believe that it's because I've learned a little bit in Narcotics Anonymous about how to deal with situations without getting high. Because when I came here, my only coping skill was to get high. So I feel like I've learned that stuff here. And you know, a lot of that too. I think it was through sponsorship that it's just I believe. Like the literature says, that sponsorship is the heart of the NA program. And I think that sponsorship helped me a lot to see through a lot of the denial that I had, a lot of the refusal to look at certain things in my life. And just, you know, I believe in sponsorship. I really do. And it's hard for me to talk about. I've had a few different sponsors over my course in Narcotics Anonymous so far, but I had one sponsor that I found. Which a lot of you know, which was Rocco. And it was the first person, like I said, that was, you know, showed me that there was people in the world that could love me unconditionally. He showed me that I could trust people and that they wouldn't reject me or abandon me, that I can allow myself to be vulnerable. It was the first person to help me really understand what Narcotics Anonymous was all about. It was the first person, he showed me what it meant to really to surrender and to have faith and to trust a higher power and to develop a relationship with a higher power, and to find that journey through my steps and through that connection. It's the first, he knew more about me than anybody else on this planet has ever known or even knows today. I worked a full set of steps with him. Is it a guy? Yeah. You hear me saying him? I had a female, I feel like, do I even need to justify this? But I had a female sponsor for the first 3 years of my recovery, and I feel like that was really, really important for me. And that I learned how to develop a relationship with a female, and I learned how to trust a female, and I love her very much. And but there came a time in my life when I had about 3 years clean that I moved to Huntington, and I noticed that I wanted to get high, and like really wanted to get high, and it was really hard for me to move my recovery from one side of the state to the other. So I felt very disconnected. I felt very alone. And I decided to ask Rocco to sponsor me at the time because that was the only person that I felt just any kind of connection to. But, and you know, he, the last time I saw him was at my wedding. And he was a wonderful person. And he passed away 3 days after my wedding. And that's the most pain I've ever felt in my life. It knocked me on the ground. It was so painful. And I was absolutely terrified. But it's also, I can look at that situation, and I can see the positive in it today, and I can see how that connection is still there, and I can see that that message still lives on, and that everything he taught me is still in my heart. and it'll always be in my heart. That night, he always wanted me like to go sit by big trees because they had wisdom, and that was what I was supposed to do. And I was okay. So when he died, it was like 10 o'clock at night, I think, when I found out. And like I went outside of our house, and I mean I don't even know what I was. I was just crazy. I didn't know what to think. And I sat by the biggest tree that I could find at 10 o'clock at night, and I hope the neighbors didn't see me. And I just sat there, and I just cried. And it was, not 30 minutes after I had found out. And I sat there and I cried. I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't have anybody else that I trust. I don't have anybody else that loves me like you love me. And for those of you that don't know him, he was in a wheelchair, and like this big gust of wind came through, and I could see him, and I could hear him, and he was laughing, and he was happy because he was running in the wind, and everything was okay, It was that moment that I realized what all of that internal conscious contact with a power greater than myself was all about. I learned how important it was for me to stop and to realize that when I pay attention and I stay connected, that I can experience those things, And there's a bunch of different little stories and different stuff, but like that one just stands out as one that like really helps me to value the work that I put into that relationship with a higher power. And I remember actually the next morning, we were getting on a plane to go on our honeymoon, which was totally freaked me out because I was going to miss all of his services, but I knew he would want me to go, and we were going to the Cayman Islands, so I was going way far away, and it was difficult. And as soon as we got over there, the first thing I wanted to do was go to a meeting, because obviously this was at 10 o'clock at night, so I hadn't been at a meeting. I hadn't even answered my phone, actually. I didn't answer my phone until the next morning when Wes, which was his sponsor, which is my sponsor now, called me. And I actually answered that phone call. I looked down, I was like, oh, it's Wes. Oh, I have to answer this one. Oh, God. And he told me that like Rocco had suggested a life celebration, and that was going to happen next month, and that I would be able to get there. While we were in Grand Cayman, my goal was to get to a meeting. And it was crazy because we couldn't find it, and we didn't know where it was, and we were I was just devastated and upset and hurt, and we were walking all around this church and in some crazy island, and we were I was starting to get upset because I was like, oh, we walked all over the church and we couldn't find the meeting, and then finally we saw some crazy island-looking dude smoking a cigarette, running around near the bushes, and I was like, let's go talk to that dude. And so we walk over there, and it was the NA meeting. I was like, yes. And it was so cool to walk in there, and there was probably, 10 people in there, maybe there was that many people. And they were so excited to see us, and they were like, we share. How long have you been clean? You're from the U.S.? Oh my gosh. And they were so excited, and nobody in there had over a year clean. And they just couldn't wait for us to share. And I remember sitting in that meeting, and their slang was weird. It wasn't a different language, but it was island stuff. I don't know. They didn't sound like we do, but and I couldn't hardly understand them. And I was actually talking to an addict at dinner that just came back from being overseas, and another addict that had gone to South Africa, and they were talking about the readings and the stability of our readings. And it doesn't matter whether or not we can speak the same language, or we speak the same language in our hearts. We knew what they were reading. And then there was one guy that shared, and I don't know anything he said, but I heard the word courage, and that's all I needed to hear. You know, I just needed to hear that word. And that was a really, you know, positive experience from that, and something that I'll remember forever, I guess. But what time is it? Here's a phone. 9:55. Gosh, I feel like there's a lot of stuff I could talk about. I don't know. I love Narcotics Anonymous, and I love what it does for my life, and I love what it does for the people around me, and I love to watch people come into the rooms and just start coming to meetings and start working steps and start getting involved and to really take off into this program. And, you know, I'm one of those people that, like, I fully believe that I need to be submersed in Narcotics Anonymous. Like, I need to be inside the circle. I can't be on the outside of the circle and expect to stay. It's really important for me to be right in the middle. I think a lot of that I do with service work, and just developing relationships with other people in the program. I feel like I'm done. And I hate when people do this. You're like, God, just somebody tell her to shut up. I really, really want to thank the committee for asking me to share. And thank you guys for listening. That's all I got.